All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on the Pavement Marking Materials Product Evaluation Program. My name is Keegan Visser, and I am an Associate Program Manager here at AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions, as well as the Committee Liaison for the Pavement Marking Materials Technical Committee. So before we dive into today's content, I want to lay out a few guidelines for this webinar. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will be available for all to access on the AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solution website and YouTube channel. This webinar is for state DOT members only. As I mentioned, a recording will be available after the completion of the webinar, but for right now, we'd like to keep the audience just to state DOT members. So if you're not a state DOT member, I kindly ask that you log off at this time. And then finally, please save all your questions until the end. We have time set aside for answering any questions you may have, and I'll explain how to ask questions in this webinar format once we reach that portion. So let's begin. I want to give a brief outline of what we'll be discussing today. We will begin with the purpose of AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions. We'll discuss the PMM Technical Committee, who we are, what we do, and how we do it. We will lay out the benefits of using the PMM program for the states. We'll give a brief overview of how to access the data and what data is provided from the evaluations. And then we'll wrap up with your questions at the end. So what is the purpose of AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions? And for those of you who may not be aware, as part of an overall rebranding initiative within AASHTO, NetPEP is now known as the AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions Technical Service Program. We provide the same services, just under a new name. So AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions combines the professional and physical resources of the AASHTO member departments in order to evaluate materials, products, and devices of a common interest for use in highway and bridge construction. The primary goal of the program is to provide cost-effective evaluations for the state DOTs by eliminating duplication of testing and auditing by states and duplication of efforts by manufacturers that provide products of evaluation. So what does this mean? The program committees are established by the states for the states. We establish our technical committees based on the needs of the states. And as the members of these committees, state DOTs are the ones developing and voting on the work plans which lay out how products are evaluated. The programs serve as a tool that DOTs can use as they see fit. There's no one-size-fits-all solution or way to use the program. Every state is welcome to use the program in whatever way will best serve their own needs. And finally, they provide access to evaluation and audit information that individual states may not have resources to perform themselves. And additionally, for states which are performing their own evaluation and audits, utilizing the program also gives those state DOTs the ability to shift personnel and resources used in these evaluations to other internal priorities. So while today we focus on the Pavement Marking Materials Committee, I wanted to briefly show this to give an overview of the wide range of product evaluations and audits which the program performs. And more information on any of these can be found on our program website. So turning our focus back to Pavement Marking Materials Committee, the map which is on the screen now provides an overview of how this program is utilized by the states. From the results of our most recent survey, 24 states currently require the pavement marking products be evaluated by AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions in order to be considered for state QPLs, which are the ones shown in green. And an additional 10 states accept the results of AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions in lieu of some other form of testing. And those are the states that are in yellow. And for more information on state usage, please refer to our recently completed committee wellness check available in the states only section of the program website. So now we discussed what the AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions program is. I'm going to turn it over to our Pavement Marking Materials Technical Committee leadership, Lynette Rizos, our committee chair, to go more in depth into what the Pavement Marking Materials Technical Committee is and what evaluations are performed. So Lynette, turn it over to you.
Hey everyone, my name is Lynette Rizos. I'm with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation, and I am the PMM, the Pavement Marking Materials Chairperson. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so what is the Pavement Marking Materials Technical Committee? The committee is made up of members that are representatives from DOTs and various various marking industry members as well. The DOT has participating members who are able to vote, and then I do believe within the industry they are unable to vote. Is that correct, Keegan?
That's correct. Only the state DOT members can vote.
Okay. The committee meets to collaborate on procedures and parameters so that we can evaluate the various types of pavement marking. And we're looking at the performance of the pavement marking. And I'm going to get more into that in some upcoming slides. Next slide, please. So when you're looking at the test deck, what is a test deck? For those of you who are new, some of you, this might just be some additional information. Excuse me, I was going to say NEPEP, the Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions Accelerated Wear Test Evaluation is that there are two different zones, a plow state and a non-plow state. So just to give an example, Wisconsin would be a plow state. Florida would not be a plow state. We have these two separate categories because, for instance, in Wisconsin, we wouldn't use products that would not hold up to a plow action or to salting versus Florida, or even I'll use Texas as an example, they would be looking at something like UV stabilization. So that's why we have the two different areas for test decks. Each spring, when we have a test deck year, manufacturers are asked to submit products that they would like evaluated. Depending on that type of pavement marking, the product can be subject to either a 1, 2, or 3-year field test. Those are permanent products. I am going to throw in here, because it wasn't on there either, we do test temporary tape as well, and that is subject to a 6-month test. So that would only be reviewed for 6 months. All of the data is then reported through DataMine, which Keegan is going to discuss that later in this webinar, but that is where all of the data is going to be put. So what products are eligible for the test deck? Materials can be in either liquid or solid form, and the different types of products may include tapes, permanent and temporary, preformed thermoplastics, paints, multi-components, which under the multi-component, it's epoxies, MMA, polyesters, polymetric films, and then there's an experimental materials category, which I will explain that later. So just going into a really high level overview, I'm oversimplifying this, but for the sake of this webinar, I just wanted to do a quick breakdown of each category. So paints are going to have 3 colors. This is liquid paint. 2 types, you're going to have a solid-borne and a waterborne. Under the paint category, this is unique to this, you're going to have a no track time that's measured. So there's different intervals that will be set forth. And what a no track test is essentially a car, after the set amount of time, after the material's been placed, will drive over this car. It's at a set speed, set distance, and it will see how much paint, if any, paint tracks. This is something that can be requested by the vendor. It is not required though. And this is something just for a marketing sort of deal. The film thickness is for the paint category is going to be 15 mils plus or minus a mil. And then I do want to chime in that we are allowing the host state, it's up to their discretion, 4 or 6 inch lines. And then your variance is plus or minus a ½ inch of when that is applied. So I did want to mention that 6 inch lines, depending on the host state, may be permitted. The length of time for the evaluation can be 1, 2, or 3 years. Thermoplastics and preformed thermoplastics. So just really quick, the difference between the preform and a thermoplastic is simply the form that it comes in. So a thermoplastic is going to come in a powder form, which will be placed down with an extrusion machine. So it looks like a giant pizza oven on wheels. It's going to be pushed to place the product, or it can be done in other methodology depending on the manufacturer. Preform will come in just that, a preformed piece, and will be placed down and then torched and melted into place. So I just wanted to lay that out there for someone who's never seen or has used these types of products. So going back to this, the 3 colors are white, lead-based yellow, non-lead-based yellow. Your film thickness is going to be 125 mils plus or minus 5 mils. And then this width is 6 inches plus or minus a half inch. That's what the standard is, unless the manufacturer has something different from those parameters. Length of time for evaluation is 3 years. So tapes, I am going to throw this in here, and it's not on this page, but I'm going to say there are permanent tapes and there are temporary tapes. Colors still apply for both of them. Width is the same for both of those. This is a category we do have black tape. For the black tape, that is something that may be used in work zone applications or for lead-in, lead-outs for permanent tape. So 4 to 6 inches in width. The length of evaluation for the permanent tape is 3 years. For temporary tape, that is 6 months. And I can elaborate a little more on that later. The multi-component. So multi-component is going to have the same colors as well as the tape. Film thickness is going to be 20 mils plus or minus 5 mils. Same thing with this category that I had said on the paint. It can be 4 or 6 inches with plus or minus a half an inch width, or the manufacturer can specify this. And the length of evaluation is going to be 3 years. So now I'm going to explain briefly what the experimental product category is. The experimental category is something that it doesn't really quite fit into a category above, or it may fit into a category, but there's something about it that's making it just a little bit different, and it doesn't quite fit perfectly into a category. These products, it could be that they're just the manufacturer's going to want to do some further research on this product before it can actually go out to market. And they may just be wanting to see how does this product play? Is it playing closer to a waterborne paint? Is it performing more similar to a thermoplastic? Is it looking like an epoxy? The only thing that is reported on an experimental are the field test observations. So when a host state is putting this down, or when it is being put down in a host state, the state does not collect any samples to be tested in a lab. It is only field evaluation. And the length of time for this evaluation can be 2 or 3 years. Okay, and now I'm going to do a very high-level overview of the laboratory testing. So you're going to see a lot of words on the slides coming up, and that is just for a very brief, I'm going to just give a very brief overview. But just to give a rundown of the test lab. So the laboratories who do our testing, they are under contract with the Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions program. So for our waterborne and solvent-borne lab, that's going to be the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation. Thermoplastics, that's going to be Future Labs. Multiple components is going to be Future Labs. And then all of our tape products is Minnesota DOT. So an overview of the lab testing on the waterborne. These are the tests that are performed. They're all the ASTMs have been listed for this, and this is also under the work plans for the field labs. I'm not going to read every test to you in the interest of time, so we can just leave this up quickly, and then we'll skip on to the next one. And like I said, if you have questions, you can ask those at the end. Waterborne. Many similar tests to solvent-borne, but again, here are all the ASTMs for that. I'm not going to read through all of them because this again is in the within the field, within the lab work plan. Okay, so thermoplastics. Again, some of the tests are different. For each product, there are different types of tests, and that is also why we send these products to various types of labs, because they all have different equipment to do these different tests and different outcomes. Go on to the next one. Preformed thermoplastic, again, very similar to the thermoplastic that was listed previously. Tapes, same thing. Multi-component materials. Now, depending on the component that it's categorized under, these tests might be similar or different, but under multi-component, these are the tests that are run. Okay, So I'm going to go back into the host states test deck, the responsibilities to the program. So Wisconsin has hosted to date 2 test decks, and the second test deck is in progress as we speak. It was installed in 2022. The responsibility of the host state is that you are responsible for the field evaluation portion and recording the data and inputting it into DataMine. The different types of data that is collected in the field, and this is for temporary and permanent products as well as experimental, I just wanted to put that in there, is you're going to be looking for the retro reflectivity values, durability, daytime color, nighttime color, which is only recorded for the yellow products, wet night retro reflectivity. This is an additional test that manufacturers may request, and this will come at an additional fee. So that's a separate test that's performed. And then the auto no track time is only for paint products. And again, that is only at the request of the manufacturer. If they don't want it, we don't do it. The temporary products are tested for 6 months. After 6 months, those are done. And there are some additional tests that are done on the temporary tapes as well, such as we'll pull up every month, another piece gets pulled up to see how difficult it is, and just a few other tests. Permanent markings are evaluated up to 3 years, depending on its category. Excuse me. Okay, so these tests are all performed on HMA and on PCC, on concrete roadways. The test decks are located in the 2 different types of categories, either a snowplow, a northern state, or a state that does receive snow, or a non-snowplow state, more of a southern state that has more sun, and we're looking at more UV sort of testing, if you will. The field evaluations, I went through this earlier, so we can actually skip through this. This just got duplicated. We can go into, okay, so the overview of the field evaluations. All of the products, aside from the experimental, are sampled for lab testing. Experimental is not, as I had stated earlier. The markings are installed by the manufacturer or someone who is appointed by the manufacturer. The host states do not install these. These are not done by us. We are only there for oversight and to collect the data. So while it's being installed, the host state is responsible for recording the mill thicknesses, the bead type, and the rates applied. Additionally, it is our job to keep track of all the lines, which are labeled with a number. Each line has its own number, and it has under a subdeck on each surface. And these are done by numbers and subdeck numbers to keep the testing unbiased, and it's a blind test for when we do evaluations. That's how all of these lines are categorized. Additional information that's collected are the conditions during the application, so air temperature, surface temperature, humidity. I will also keep track of if it was a day where we had a little bit of extra rain or humidity. I would keep a journal, and I do believe other states do this as well, but keep a journal of what had happened that day, if there was anything that just seemed a little different or unique to the day. So all of that is documented. So again, the evaluations are performed by the state hosting the test deck, or it could be a contracted research partner. And the laboratory testing is done by either a state lab and or a private laboratory who is under contract with the product evaluation and audit solutions. So here's going to be what a typical layout looks like for a test deck. So if you look on the left side of your screen, you're going to see what the permanent products look like. So within these test decks, one of the things that's very critical is that where you see your skip lines at, on the portion, if you actually look down more onto the furthest left side, when the lines are placed, they're going to go in between the skip lines. We never want to put the line up to a skip mark, because that is your actual regulatory lane marking that the traveling public needs to follow. So we don't want to in any way tamper with that. So you'll lay out your lines where each manufacturer on each surface gets 4 lines. How it's split up is that you make sure to put down 2 lines on one subdeck and 2 lines on another subdeck. This is done so that if, heaven forbid, there was an accident, a pavement blow up, a car had an incident or anything like that, if a set of lines are lost, you still have 2 more lines left. So it's not a total wash for that product. Additionally, where we take the readings at are on a skip and on a wheel. So where you see those two arrows on the left side where it says wheel and skip, we do this because typically a skip means where you're going, where the wheel, when it's heading down the roadway, is going to miss the line. It's not going to be repetitively hitting that line. So that's typically the area closest to the skip, the actual, when I say skip, the lane line. The wheel path is where you're going to see the most wear. That is where you're going to see the tires continuously hitting in that same spot. And then if you look on the bottom portion of that, along the side of the graphic where you can see the AABBCC, where it says wet reading location. Because of the nature of this test, we have to take it off to the shoulder because we're spraying water on the line. And so you'll spray for X number of time, you let it drain for X number of time. And we do that because then we're not waving our arm right into live traffic. And additionally, it's going to be draining off the shoulder. And then you will take your reading there. And that is that additional optional test. If you look on the right side of the screen, that is where you're going to see the temporary tape. And one of the things that are different about that is that for the temporary tape, they actually put down 6 lines. 6 lines that run transversely and then 6 lines that run longitudinally. So on each surface, the vendor is going to have 12 lines. And what we do is there's that 6-month test. You're going to pull up every month, you will pull up one of the lines that runs transversely and one of the lines that runs longitudinally. And this is a test to see how well it adhered, how much residue is left behind, how much shadowing is left behind. So that's why it's 6 lines per longitudinal and for transverse, 6 lines for 6 months. Okay. So here's the list of the current test deck host states. We have Utah, who installed in 2021. They were actually originally slated to install in 2020, but got pushed back a year due to COVID. We have Wisconsin, which we installed in 2022. PennDOT installed in 2023 for their permanent products only, and they are doing a secondary install this year for their temporary tapes. And they had to do that due to staffing issues. So that is why that was pushed off. And then West Virginia, who is new to becoming a host state, they will be installing in 2024. So one of the questions I'm sure that comes up actually pretty frequently is what's the benefits of the PMM program, specifically as a host state? So the way that I was able to make sure that we could continue in Wisconsin becoming a host state is that one of the things is that the participation, you get invaluable data on different types of pavement marking products, and you get to work really closely with the industry as the products are not only being installed, but as you're viewing these test results. I know when you're out there and you're seeing these products installed, I learned so much my first time around. You're learning how the installation process goes, why it has to be installed that way, conditions, everything like that. So as a host state, that was just invaluable information. For all DOTs, our goal is to get the best performing products for the taxpayer. I apologize for that. My microphone was doing its own thing. We want to do this so that we can make sure the taxpayers are getting the best product possible in the most cost-efficient way, especially for your climate and where you're located. This is always one of the most important things. One of the other things is being a host state, you get to see a lot of these products that are coming into the market that may have never been seen before, but you also get to see existing products and possible improvements that have been made, or just seeing how over the years you can just if it's a product that you continue to use year after year with no changes, you can just continue to see this product, and maybe over the first 3 years it was okay, but then the next 3 years it did something amazing for you. So that's a really nice up close and personal sort of thing. Why should the DOTs require PMM evaluations over independent testing? So this is a really great question, another one that gets asked quite a bit. The products that are evaluated are done by accredited labs, and the field evaluations that are done are not by the manufacturer. These are all done separate from the manufacturer. So that's something that is a huge thing. The test decks that are hosted by the DOTs, we are looking at day-to-day real life traffic and real life weather conditions. The traffic that you see on the road is true. Everyday traveling public. You're going to see stuff that they might not test for. You'll see boats, RVs, trucks, things like that going down the road, motorcycles that you're going to see that's going to add an additional impact on this line in its testing. This is just continued on. You can look at a direct comparison between similar products on different test deck environments. So I can look at something that was put down in Wisconsin, and I can also look at how it worked in Florida, and I can look at how it worked in Utah, and I can look at how it worked in Pennsylvania. This is giving me multiple perspectives on something, which is great. You're getting real life field test conditions. So you can see, like we said, side by side under the same conditions and tested on the same test deck facility. So if you want to look at different manufacturers, but on the same condition, you're getting blind field reviews. The evaluators, when I'm out there, they have no idea what they're looking at. It's a line and a subdeck. That's it. They don't know who put it down. They might have an idea, oh yeah, this is paint. Oh yeah, this is thermoplastic, but it's a true blue unbiased test. So in here, I've given you a list of all the different resources that are available. We have the technical committee documents, the evaluation work plans for both lab and field, which are, like I said, if you're interested in those tests, go through those. You can see everything that's done in depth. We have the best practices manual, and we also have the user guide. And then Keegan, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
All right. I want to say that all of these resources are available on the PMM committee page on the AASHTO Product Evaluation and Audit Solutions website. So now that we talked about performing the testing, we're going to talk about reviewing the results using our data mine. And what is data mine? Data mine is our online repository of data and audit reports for all services offered by the program. The database provides the tools for performing queries that will assist you in analyzing and reporting on the current and past evaluations. And to get the most out of data mine, always log into your account, because there are different levels of data access within data mine, and logging into your account ensures that you will have access to all the data, which will not be available if you're trying to view the publicly viewable site. And so for those of you that are watching this and don't currently have a data mine account and would like to full access to all data within it, please use the registration link on the main page to register for a data mine account. So once you've logged into your data mine account, how do you find the PMM data? Well, from the main page, the PMM module can be accessed from the traffic safety dropdown and selecting pavement marking materials. Upon entering the module, you'll be presented with a list of submitted products. As you can see, there are currently over 1,300 products which have been submitted to the program. So to narrow down the products you wish to review, you can use the Find Products toolbar on the left-hand side of the page to search for products that meet your certain criteria. For every product submitted, there'll be a product information tab laying out the manufacturer provided information and documentation about the product and its usage. And as Lynette discussed, the results from the test deck readings during the set intervals, along with photos of the products taken during that intervals readings, will be presented on the field inspection tab. You also have the field installation data from the initial product installation. And as we also discussed, the results of the laboratory evaluation are presented here for each of the product types. And as I mentioned before, you always need to log into your data mine account before viewing any data, as the laboratory results are restricted viewing and cannot be viewed from the public site. So you must be logged in to view these results. Okay, so now I know we covered a lot of information in a short amount of time. So we now open the floor up to you to ask your questions you may have about the committee or the work we perform. So to ask questions, please raise your hand to be unmuted, or you can type it into the chat box. And if we don't have time to get to your questions, or there's something you'd wish to speak with us in private about, or if anything comes up after the webinar concludes, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact information is below. And with that, I open it up to your questions.
Also, if there's no questions or during the meeting that you don't feel comfortable asking or you don't want to ask in the meeting, all of the contact info is up here. Please feel free to email myself or Keegan, and that's totally fine. We can answer it afterwards. I don't have any issues with that. We got one.
All right. Eric asks, who performs the sampling of the products?
So the test state, so the host state will sample the product. So while they are being installed, this is a great question. While the product is being installed, we take a sample of the exact product being installed. So when the vendor comes out, before they come out, they are notified that what they need to do is that they have to bring enough of their material for us to take with us. And it has to be of the same lot. So if they are installing, say, a preformed thermoplastic or a tape, they have to bring us enough of that lot that's being installed. They can't just say, oh, we'll send it to the lab after, or we'll send it to you. It has to be exactly when it went out there at that time. And West Virginia is a snowbelt test deck. Yes. Sorry, those are two separate questions. I apologize.
Jason asks, do we have any way of determining if the manufacturer is submitting the same product as on a previous deck? Not a verification, just to be able to compare results between decks. They use cryptic/generic names.
That's a great question. So with that, we've had, the only way that you can do this is you will have to somehow write it into your requirements. And what I do is that what I used to do is I would have a requirement that said, you need to provide to me when they submit their product to me, you need to provide in writing your PMM number, and you also need to provide me some sort of document, official documentation that says, okay, this product is this, is what it had, the name has to match what is listed on the test deck. I understand why they do that, because some of them want to keep their formulations quiet or to themselves. So that's something internally you'll have to do. That's not something that through NetPep, or excuse me, I keep using the wrong name, through the product evaluation and audit solutions. That's not something we do through there, but that is something as a state, as a DOT, you can ask for that. But yes, that has been a struggle. So I always would put it in writing that it needs to be in some sort of your official documentation, showing me that this product is actually what is on the test deck. So, okay, it's more of a comment that came out. So the test deck layout, when we do the day night color, that testing is also done in the skip. That is not done in the wheel path. So that's just another statement I can say, but that was something that was in one of the work plans and in the best practices, but that can be updated. Yes.
All right, Eric asked, is there a way to account for weather variability? Snow plows going over it 5 times versus 50 times.
Nope. That's part of the test deck, is that I've tried to track the snowplow activity in Wisconsin. However, in Wisconsin, the counties do our plowing and they go out when they go out. So it's difficult. I've tried to track the snowfall. It's hard though with the brining and how those operations work. So for us, like I said, in Wisconsin, it's a great representation. So because we get a lot of snow, we get a lot of extremes. As in, you can wake up in the morning. Yesterday was a great example. I woke up and it was 20 degrees out and snowing. By the afternoon, it was 75 and sunny. So it's really hard to account for this. So that's something that if a state is able to record that, they may be able to upload that into their notes. But speaking on behalf of Wisconsin, that's something that's very challenging for us to do. So that's why it's just separated into snowplow and non-snowplow states. These are great questions. So if there's anything else, please, like I said, great questions. No, this is not. The bead gradation is something that, so this is something that depending on the state that you're in, the beads may be provided. And how this is done is whatever that state's, it would have to be a specified bead from the state. So for instance, I'm going to use Wisconsin again as an example. For surface applied products that are liquid, we require a type 1 bead. So those beads are provided because we also in Wisconsin have a contract for beads for our counties who do our local roads for us. We will provide those beads to them. They have to ask for them. They will have to ask for those. However, we will provide those to them. And for the other bead, for anything else that's placed down, the manufacturer tells us what they're putting down, and then they also have to provide a sample. Now we will run a gradation to verify if AWILDA has done this, and then we upload the gradation report to verify that's what they're placing.
So a question was asked, would a polymer modified cement lane marking material be accepted as an experimental?
Yes. We did have a question like that similar earlier. So yes. Okay, so Brandon, is the retroreflectivity testing being performed with hand and or mobile? It's all with hand. So each line, we'll set the meter on top of it, press the button, and either it will be saved in the meter. And then in Wisconsin, we also hand record this. In the instance that there may be a glitch in the meter, we hand record everything. So we have written records of these as well.
This is a question pertaining to the annual meeting. How do states handle line evaluations if the beads don't match the individual state specifications?
Yeah, so that's something that I know that's come up a lot, especially in Wisconsin. And one of the things is we've made it clear to vendors that if you are specifically putting your product down to come to be applied in our state, again, this is something that each state has to handle on your own. How we had handled it in the past is that I would say, if you're looking to install in our state, then you need to have something go down with our bead type. Because there are vendors that will come to me straight out and say, hey, we want to be on your APL. What do we have to do to get on that APL? And my response was, look at our specifications, see what you need to do to match our specifications. Now, how each state handles that, like I said, that's how I handle that. I can't speak on behalf of the other states. So I would say, I would look at from the perspective of type 1, we go with that surface applied products because we're going to have the least likeliness to have those sheared. If it's anything bigger than a type 1, or we're going to do some sort of wet recoverable, wet reflective blend, it has to go into a groove. So that's a whole other conversation, but that's just something that at your state you would have to determine looking at it from that perspective. You can maybe track the trend. I mean, I can make suggestions, but like I said, that's a state by state item.
And I made a note to have that be a topic of discussion during the annual meeting.
Yep.
All right, so Jason followed up with, are the vendors normally receptive of that approach? We require thermo with type 1, type 3 intermix, and type 4, type 1 double drop for surface beads.
Yes, if they are adamant about installing in your state, and if they're very serious about it, they'll do it. They will do it. Now, if they think you're going to be an easy sell and they walk up and say, hey, I want to put this down, and when it's a product that maybe perhaps we've seen problems with in the past, and I'll say, you know what, let's get this down. Let's take a look at it. And if they're a little hesitant, that'll tell me a little bit, but if they're gung-ho to do it, great. But that's, like I said, there are a few thermos, at least there were in Wisconsin, that had been put down with a double drop. So I'm sure that would be a situation that if they feel they can get more states on board with it, or if they're going to get you guys as a customer, that would be, I think it's worth the conversation at the very least. These are great questions coming in.
Any more questions that spring to anyone's mind?
Let's see. I don't see anything else.
As we said, if anything does come up after this, feel free to reach out to any of us up there on the screen, and we'll be happy to answer your questions.
And also, if there is anything you would like to see for the annual meeting, an agenda topic for the annual meeting, also send that to myself and Keegan as well. Because we will have vendors in there as well who can give some input onto this. So that would be like you had, Jason, like you had said about, that would be a great question to ask because I think other states as well could chime in.
So that's a good segue to some closing remarks about joining us at our annual meeting in Kansas City this year. The registration is open, and I believe an email went out to everyone reminding you to register. The PMM Technical Committee itself will meet June 26th at 8 a.m. And as I said, this webinar was recorded and it will be made available on our program website and YouTube channel. And as we've said, if there's any other questions, please email any of the contacts for the PMM Technical Committee on our screen right here. If there's no further questions, we thank everyone for their time today and look forward to seeing you in Kansas City for the annual meeting.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.